Welcome, friend. Follow me. We're going somewhere dark, somewhere dangerous. Most people would never dare enter the place we are going. There's no telling what horrors we'll find, what terrors we'll uncover. Don't say I didn't warn you. We might discover terrible monsters lurking there. Be careful, they could follow you out, or maybe they're already inside you. Are you afraid? Good. Now you are ready to enter the Warning Woods.
You know what I'd rather have than electronic billboards? More freaking bike lanes. Bet you never thought you'd hear me say that, huh? These were the first words spoken to me when I walked into the office Thursday morning. Huh? I asked Scott, the guy who said those words to me. Haven't you heard about the billboards they're trying to approve? A quality of life-destroying disaster they're trying to get through. I just don't see how anyone can support it, Scott replied. I don't even know what he does here. Something IT. He's got business cards on his desk over in the corner under the ceiling tiles with the brown stains from when the third floor's bathroom flooded. Maybe I'll peek at one of those cards next time he gets up to pee so I can talk to him about something other than local politics. Last year's calamity was the indoor pool. The year before that, it was replacing all the old wooden playgrounds we both remember so fondly with big, sterile plastic ones that get so hot you can't touch them in the summertime. And they wonder why kids are all staying inside getting addicted to screens. Good, I say. I wish I was addicted to the screen I have to stare at all day. So what if these kids don't want to play outside? Why not get used to the burning eyes and vitamin D deficiency? This year, the bee up Scott's butt, that's a euphemism just borderline enough for work, was an effort pushed by a few business interests to erect 6 electronic billboards throughout the city. Apparently, these billboards were a key step into the modern era of advertising, should you be worried they have no purpose. Oh, and according to the guy who shows up to all the city council meetings in an Escalade transporting only himself, the LEDs in the electronic billboards are better for the environment than paper billboards, which get wadded up and thrown away unless the wind rips them off and blows them into a river first. Hearing those options weighed against each other made me wonder why we really need billboards at all. Scott's not worried about the environment, though. No, he's worried only about the types of pollution that affect him, see. Light pollution, noise pollution, those are the sorts of things that bother Scott. And he bothers me about them. Why? Because I'm meek, I'm quiet, I listen. But only because I don't have the spine to tell him to let me work. Sometimes I have to excuse myself to the restroom, which always prompts some comment from Scott about the office coffee. He chuckles like we're two buddies on the inside of a taboo joke as I walk off to hide in a stall until I feel certain he's gone back to his desk. It's not just Scott, it's this place. I don't just mean my office either, or my building, not even my city. It's this place I'm at in life, where everything behind me looks like good times and everything ahead looks dreary. Somewhere along the way, I passed by the things I was looking forward to without noticing. Now they're gone. At the end of the day, my boss asked me to remind him he had something to show me in the morning. I told him I would, and I did. He brought me up to the 3rd floor, then to the rear of the building where a small service hall led to a bathroom everyone thought was their personal secret. My boss opened a door I'd honestly never noticed, which revealed a staircase I'd never seen. Apparently our building has a 4th floor. The 4th floor, essentially an attic, had clearly once held a crammed cubicle space, probably before the pandemic sent so many people home. Now the building's owner, Todd, was just using it for storage. My boss explained Todd, who I only met once before, had an idea to turn a section of the 4th floor into an audio-video studio, something his tenants could all use to record videos, voiceovers, podcasts, whatever their business needed. It was a great idea, and certainly something I immediately thought I could use as the marketing director for our company. The problem Todd ran into was he didn't know the first thing about audio or video. AV wasn't something he felt comfortable enough to tackle. He'd shared this issue with a few of his tenants, and my boss offered to have me set the studio up. He showed me the space Todd intended me to use. It was perfect, save for one corner window that needed to be covered to keep out unpredictable natural light. We'd use big LEDs with diffusers, I thought. Reliable light. Already my mind started placing them, positioning cameras and mics around the room. My boss could see the wheels turning and clapped me on the back, a chummy gesture meant to show camaraderie, but which always felt patronizing. He told me to take the weekend to think about the equipment I'd need, then to send him and Todd an email Monday morning with the list. For the first time, his suggestion for how I should spend my weekend didn't boil my blood. I went to work Monday morning with a studio design I figured would get shut down as soon as Todd saw the bill. To the contrary, he asked me to send links to each of the items I requested so he could order them that day. Just so you know how crazy that seemed to me, the total cost before tax of what I sent Todd came out to just under $9,000, plus a few hundred for paint, and he agreed to pay within minutes of me sending it to him. I asked my boss about this because, honestly, I found it strange. My boss told me he's probably going to write it off on his taxes. Plus, he mentioned his son is probably going to use it quite a bit. I guess he's trying to start some kind of podcast or something. Ah, now I understood. My time was being spent building a Nepo studio. I wondered how much time Todd's son planned to spend using that studio and how much would be left for the rest of us. Whatever. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, right? Besides, working on the studio would get me out of the office for a few hours here and there. The gear arrived 3 days later. On my lunch break, I put up the blackout curtain I'd requested for the window so I could see what the room looked like without the sun blaring through. I then set up the LED lights with softbox diffusers to give myself plenty of light to work with. I also set up one of the cameras to see how the walls looked through a lens. I thought they might have a sort of rustic vibe, being a bit dirty, pitted, and scratched. They clearly hadn't been painted since their original coat went on. Unfortunately, they just looked trashy on camera. They would certainly need paint before I got too far on anything else. I also broke out a microphone and tested some voice recording. The space wasn't too echoey, but I thought some mild sound treatment would go a long way in shoring up the small amount of reverb I heard. I sent requests for paint and acoustic panels to Todd, who immediately approved them again. He told me he'd order the tiles, and in the meantime, I should go out and buy the paint. He'd pay me back. My boss, seeing this whole project as both a benefit to our company and a way to ingratiate himself with Todd, allowed me to go out on company time to purchase the paint. He did request that I not spend all my time upstairs, though. He reminded me to make sure I was still making progress on my achievables as well. I assured him I would, which was easy to do since I was never given all that much to achieve. Certainly not enough to fill 40 hours per week. But I, like most of my coworkers, always found a way to make it seem like I was busy, overwhelmed even, just to make sure nobody asked me to do any more. Painting took longer than I thought. I'd never done interior painting before, so I didn't know to expect multiple days to complete the project. Twice, when I attempted to go upstairs after lunch, my boss found some excuse to keep me down in the office. He asked me to sit in meetings, review a presentation, and to compile a report of our total social media engagement over the fiscal year. I felt his building resentment toward how much time I was spending upstairs. I guess he didn't expect it to take so long either. After missing a few days' work on the studio, I wondered if it might be easier to start each day upstairs and go downstairs mid-morning. Would my boss or any of my coworkers climb 2 flights of stairs to come find me? Unlikely. So beginning fresh on Monday the following week, I went to work at 7:15 instead of 7:30. I left a note on my desk telling where I was and went straight to the 4th floor. I turned on all my lights, laid out my tarp, and rolled up my sleeves. I just set the paint tray on the floor beside me when the power went out. My lights flashed before going dark. The emptiness of the building crept up the stairs around the corner. I stood perfectly still, not wanting to knock over the paint tray, until my eyes finally adjusted enough to detect traces of objects around me. Fortunately for me, the blackout curtain allowed in just a sliver of sunrise, saving me from total blackness. Not wanting to give up the whole morning, or however long it took for the power to come back, I slid the curtain open. The sun entered like a blade, slicing the room in half. It drew a clear line across the floor. I took a moment to bask in it. Is this what I missed out on every day? This glorious warmth and light? By now, I'd usually be sitting under the fluorescent lights downstairs. I felt a chill run up my spine and rotated to give it a turn in the warm glow. I tipped my head back and closed my eyes in the simple pleasure of that quiet moment. After a deep breath, I let my head drop and opened my eyes. A pair of legs stood across from me in the corner. Just legs. They cut off just below the waist. That's where the window frame blocked the sun. They were standing next to my tarp, next to where I'd planned on painting. They wore khakis and dress shoes I thought most likely belonged to a man. I stood there, waiting to see if the legs would move. I thought they might walk toward me and reveal the rest of the body hidden by shadow. But the legs just stood there, perfectly still. Maybe they believed I couldn't see them. I wanted to run or scream or, I don't know, close the curtain. Would that make the legs go away, or just make me unable to see them like the rest of the ghost? I stiffened for so long I started feeling faint and forced myself to take a breath. The breath calmed me down, made me feel somewhat in control of myself. I can't explain what, but something then prompted me to say, "Hello?" The legs remained still. The room remained quiet. So quiet I could hear the voices and movements of people downstairs. A few laughs made their way up the stairs and through the floor. Without the internet or their computers to occupy them, everyone below occupied themselves with conversation. These happy sounds affected how I felt while staring at those disembodied legs. I recognized the absurdity of what now stood before me. I doubted they could hurt me. My fear turned into amused disbelief. "I'm Harlan Bright," I told the ghost. "I work here, downstairs on the second floor. I'm the marketing director for a software company, which basically makes me a glorified social media guru. Was this room yours once? Did you, work here or live here? I don't really know if this building's always been offices." I paused, wondering if the ghost would or could respond in any way. The legs just stood there, feet pointed at me, as if waiting to hear more. That's how I interpreted it anyway. I said, "Well, I'll be up here a lot setting up this studio. I hope that's okay with you. The guy who owns this place, Todd, maybe you've seen him around if you're always up here. He's put a lot of money into all this gear. It's gonna be pretty cool when I'm done. It'll look a lot better than this dank storage space, that's for sure. I really hope that doesn't bother you." As the sun moved higher, I noticed the legs beginning to shrink. The thighs had almost entirely evaporated. "So anyway, maybe we can get to know each other somehow. Maybe there's some way I can figure out how to talk to you to hear your story. I didn't know ghosts were real. Didn't believe, I guess. No offense. Maybe you could..." Just then, the power came back online. Cheers and jeers rose osmotically through the floor. My LED lights erased the legs completely. "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry," I shouted, twisting myself as my lower and upper halves disagreed about which light to turn off first. I tripped over my own feet, feeling like an idiot because I know I looked like one. By the time I shut off all the lights, only the ghost's shoes remained. I reflected on why my lights failed to bring out the legs when the sunlight could. Something about that natural golden light brought them out of the shadows. "Well, there you are. Where have you been?" Scott asked as soon as I walked into my monochrome office. A few others looked up from their desks with moody eyes and lifeless lips. I have a project upstairs that I've been working on," I replied. Ooh, special assignment on the 3rd floor, huh? Hey, did you know there's a bathroom down the service hall? I don't think many people know about it. He leaned in close enough for me to smell the stale coffee on his breath. Scott used hazelnut creamer. He blew it straight into my nose as he whispered, "It's a good place for some extra privacy if you need to take a number 2. I really didn't need to hear that, but I'm glad he said it, because I almost corrected Scott about which floor I'd been working on. His number 2 comment reminded me exactly why I should let him believe I was on the 3rd floor, since I'm guessing he probably wouldn't know how to find the 4th unless I told him. Thanks, Scott, that's good to know, I said, moving around him to sit at my desk. But of course, he followed me. Anyway, he said, there's a city council meeting tonight, and I think you should come. I'll be there. They're opening the floor for comments on the billboards if you want to give them a piece of your mind like me. Tuesday morning, I woke up even earlier and got to the office by 7. I went straight to the 4th floor and opened the curtain in the studio. The back of the room warmed slightly, but I was too early. The sun was just peeking out from behind the building across the street. That's okay. It gave me some time to work as I watched to see if the ghost would appear. Who's to say it would always stand in the same place, right? Maybe it wasn't attached to this building. Maybe I'd just gotten lucky. Lucky? The word doesn't seem right, but it does describe how I felt. I didn't notice this discordance at first because of the already screaming dissonance I felt about possibly seeing the ghost again. It had ruined my sleep, but not for the reasons you might think. The terror those legs caused me had vanished by lunch the day I saw them. I lay awake all night because I couldn't stop brainstorming how to learn more about the ghost. My curiosity about its identity blossomed into curiosity about the paranormal in general, then about where I sit in the existential plane. I mean, I know where. In a chair at the office of a software company, selling software to make other people in other offices more irrelevant. I felt curious about where exactly my reality sits in the greater plane. It's okay if that doesn't make sense. The thoughts I have at 3 a.m. rarely do. At 7:23, I started seeing the toes of dress shoes. By 7:27, most of the khaki shins had materialized. Notably more cloud cover than the previous day diminished the legs' clarity, but by 7:31, I could see as much as I had the day before. A sharp line from the top of the window severed the legs just below the waist, leaving them disconnected from each other. Try stepping forward, I said as if speaking to someone I knew. My hands, outstretched to indicate where I thought the ghost should stand, retracted suddenly, withering into my chest before flopping to my sides. I didn't even know who or what this thing was, and I was giving it orders? I apologized. Sorry, it's just, I really want to know who you are. I didn't believe in, hey, where do you think you are? The legs remained still as always. Clearly, I could not communicate with their owner using my voice. I continued talking to them anyway. The problem is, the top of the window is cutting you off. Yesterday we got interrupted, so maybe the rest of you will show up today? Sorry, I'm just excited you're still here. I was excited. I felt chosen, in a way. Chosen by the universe to see this hidden part of it. To know some truth I could never share because who would believe me? Next time Scott brings up those freaking billboards, I'll mention this to him, I joked aloud. See if he keeps talking to me then, huh? I watched the legs with bated breath, hoping to see more person materializing above them at any second. But it seemed the top of the window really was the cutoff. I said, well, guess that's all I get to see of you. I wonder if you can see me. I wish I could ask you if me messing with this place bothers you. I'm gonna make it really nice, I promise. It'll look way better than it does now. No way you like it like this, right? How about some fresh clay beige walls, a couple nice chairs? I'm thinking a small bookshelf with some old-looking books from Goodwill. Yeah, I think it'll be functional but pretty homey. Psh, maybe I'll spend more time up here. I could bring a laptop and avoid my boss and Scott. He's this obnoxious guy downstairs who drives me nuts. As long as I wouldn't be bothering you, obviously. I hope I can figure out how to talk to you so we can figure all this out. Really, I don't mean to disrespect you at all. It's just, I have this job to do and the building's owner spent all this money on it. Sorry, I'm rambling. That would not be the last time I rambled to the legs. I talked at them for almost 45 minutes before they completely faded into the shadows. Then I came back and did the same thing the next day. I told them about my apartment, my cats, my car that keeps leaking oil for some reason. My silent friend felt more like my therapist by Wednesday. I, talked about dating in 2025. Without knowing my silent friend's age, I couldn't know whether he understood anything I said about Tinder, Bumble, or anything about online dating in general. It's like this, I explained. Nobody you see around in person is interested in talking to a stranger. We want to know about each other before we meet. Well, not me, but most people. They've got to do their research like they're figuring out which movie they're going to go see or which restaurant they'll eat at instead of who to spend some time with. A guy like me, look, I'm nice and I think I'm smart and I'm not terrible looking, am I? I'm a little glad you can't answer that. But here's the thing, I don't sound very interesting on paper. I can hold a good conversation, right? I've been talking to you and you can't even say anything back. I just haven't been that fun for a while. But I know how to be, and I could be again. Seriously, though, who wants to go out with some marketing guy from a company no one's heard of who lives with his cats and... I just find it hard to get motivated to go out. My friends are all either married with kids, or in the process of ruining their lives, it seems like. The ones who are single and doing well are doing too well to waste any time on me. I'd show you their Instagrams if I knew you could see them. A lot of good times being had. A lot of good times above my pay grade, that's for sure. You talking to yourself up here? I jumped at my boss's voice booming just around the corner. I'd only been talking to the legs for 20, maybe 30 minutes. They'd still be around for at least another 10. I thought of jumping for the curtain, but then I'd be standing in utter darkness, which would look weird for a guy supposed to be painting. Okay, it'd look weird in general. I had to turn on the lights and hope they would dim the legs too much for my boss to see. He came around the corner before I actually turned on a light, but I flipped the switch on one before he noticed the legs standing in the corner. "Oh, good morning," I said. "Just testing how the new color looks in the light. Pretty good, don't you think?" I must have looked as sweaty and uncomfortable as I felt, because my boss's eyebrows tensed and he burrowed into my eyes with his own. "Oh, sorry, yes, I was talking to myself," I said, remembering his question. It gets quiet up here. Lonely, you know?" I should have left the lonely part out. Even without the legs, it would have been a lie. "Well, hurry up so you can come on down with the rest of us," my boss said, more sternly than I hoped he'd meant. "Without you down there, Scott's been bugging everyone else about the city council this and the city council that." "The billboards?" I asked. He rolled his eyes. "Yes, the billboards. Speaking of those, when you come down, I have something to assign you. We should meet about it for a bit, out of Scott's earshot, I think. Find me when you're done." "You could just tell me now," I said. No, I just came up here to see how you were doing. Looks like it's coming along. Anyway, I'd better get back downstairs, and so should you as soon as that coat of paint is finished." "Yes, sir," I said. I didn't usually call him sir, but it felt appropriate. I said goodbye to the fading legs, finished the coat of paint, and went downstairs. The reason my boss wanted to meet out of earshot from Scott had to do with the electronic billboards. He wanted me to design an advertisement to be one of the first to light the boards up. The company building them was accepting early buys to help fund their construction in anticipation of their approval. I accepted the project, not that it was offered. It was assigned. I thought my boss might ask me to promise not to tell Scott, but maybe he detected how much I loathed Scott and knew such a promise was unnecessary. Scott may have gotten wind of my project anyway, though. I noticed a change in him on Thursday that I told the legs about on Friday morning. "He's basically avoiding me," I said. "It's nice, I mean, it's what I've wanted for so long, but not like this. I can't stand the tension down there. I feel like I should talk to him, but I don't know what I'd say. I'm sure he's mad at everybody, not just me. Maybe if I explained I was only following orders, he wouldn't make such a big deal of it. Suddenly, an entirely unrelated thought entered my brain and exited my mouth. What if you crouched or sat down? I stared at the legs as if expecting the ghost to do as I suggested. The legs had never moved even once, so I'm not sure why I was so disappointed when they stayed still that time. Hey, why is it that you never move? I asked. It must get boring just standing there in that one spot. Are you caught in a loop? Man, it sure feels like I am. Wake up, get dressed. I even have the same breakfast every day. Then it's drive to work, go home to my empty apartment. This isn't exactly a place where someone can move up the ladder, as they say, so unless I jump ship, this is just what life's gonna be for me. And I mean, I could jump ship, but absolutely no one is hiring right now. Where could I even go? And I'd just be doing more of the same crap somewhere else, so what's the point? As I voiced these feelings I'd contained for years, I felt my frustration rise. The feelings I'd kept the lid on bubbled up like carbonated soda rolling around the trunk of a car. You know, sometimes it's like, I don't know why I try so hard. On a project like this studio, it's easy to explain because it's something I enjoy and really see the value in. But with the rest of my job, what's the point really? This company's just going to get bought up by a bigger one, probably any week now. Then I'll jump back on the hamster wheel for someone else. But the problem is, this is all I've been doing for so long I haven't even thought about what I want to do. If I could choose my dream job, I don't even know what that would be anymore. It all just feels like a waste of time. And the older I get, the more I realize how little time I really have and how much I'm spending it working on stuff I don't really believe in. It struck me I was talking about time and death to a ghost. I stopped, saw the light from the window was beginning to pale, and looked back at the fading legs. I have to be able to talk to you, I said. I need to know what you know. I need you to share what you've been through, what you've seen on the other side. Is there hope for me? Can you give me something to look forward to? The legs kept fading. Come on, I just need some sign that you're listening. Whenever I go downstairs after you disappear, I wonder if I'm just going crazy. Maybe there's a gas leak up here or something. But every day I come back and there you are. Who are you? Please, just show me you can hear me. The legs were almost gone. I grew angry, furious. I growled, "Stop disappearing on me. Just give me a damn sign already." My lips hadn't even closed yet when one of my LED lights turned on by itself. Well, probably not by itself, but I certainly didn't turn it on. The light had also been turned up to point at the ceiling, which I had not yet decided if I should paint. Well, I would definitely be painting it now. Directly above my head, illuminated by the diffused LED lights, words in white paint hung over me. The paint was dry, so the words must have been painted no later than the previous night. Yet this is what they said. A damn sign already. The ghost had known what I was going to say and written it above my head hours before. It knew the future. It could see through time. Despite it using this gift to mock me with a bad joke, it also told me so much about its power. I abandoned the studio for the rest of the day, terrified. I wondered just what sort of entity I was really speaking to all that time. The weekend came and went. On Monday morning, I couldn't work up the nerve to go upstairs. On Tuesday, the city council unanimously voted to approve the electronic billboards. On Wednesday, I needed to finalize my ad design to submit to the billboard people. Thursday, I played catch-up on all the work I'd been neglecting since taking on the studio and billboard ad. Friday morning, I paused at the door to our suite. I hadn't been upstairs once that week, and I wondered if the ghost had painted any other weird messages. Had it predicted what I was going to say, or did it know? I didn't go upstairs at first, but my curiosity grew like a fungus taking over my mind. By the time I sat down with my first cup of bitter office coffee, I couldn't extricate any thoughts from the tendrils of curiosity about the ghost wrapped around my mind. Leaving the coffee to go cold, I went upstairs. I'd foolishly left the curtain open a week ago, so the legs were waiting for me when I arrived. I hoped no one else had come upstairs early any other mornings. "Look," I said. "I'm sorry I got frustrated. I've got to know how you did that with the words, though." I pointed at the ceiling where the words still hung. "How did you know what I was going to say before I said it? And would you, no offense, but could you maybe write something more helpful next time? Tell me how I can see you. Is there some kind of magic in the sunlight, something that UV does for you that my LEDs don't?" Something UV does that my LEDs don't. I repeated it in my mind. That was it. I didn't think LEDs, even full-spectrum LEDs like mine, emitted ultraviolet rays. Could it be that simple? I spent the weekend researching sunlight and light in general. I learned LED lights do not emit ultraviolet or infrared waves, both of which are prevalent in sunlight. I could not reach a justification for why I needed a UV bulb and infrared light for the studio, so I ordered them both myself. If they did what I needed them to do, my investment would pay off. On Monday, I went upstairs as usual and spoke to the ghost. There were people on the roof of the building across the street, and I asked if the ghost ever watched people through the window and felt jealous of them. "I know I do," I said. "I can't help but look at people working at other jobs and think it must be nice to have purpose in your work, you know? But then I wonder if anybody's looking at me and thinking that. I can't imagine anyone would, but look over there at those guys on the roof, probably putting in an air conditioner or something, right? I bet it gets nasty hot up on rooftops by noon. Think any of them would imagine me standing in one of those air-conditioned buildings looking out at them in envy? Maybe. I guess if they're truly proud of what they do." I trailed off, unsure what I meant to say next. Many deeply rooted but buried emotions had been unearthed by my one-sided conversations with the ghost. Speaking my thoughts aloud also helped me understand them better. It also showed me what inside me I actually believed. At that point, I could call the ghost my closest friend. I hadn't had anyone to unload on like that for years. He helped me cultivate a new mind. I yanked out all the weeds in my brain and made room for the roots of my consciousness to grow deeper. I thought my true self might finally emerge. What would he want to do? Where would his passion take him? I couldn't know. Unless my omniscient best friend could tell me. He'd predicted what I was going to say once. Just how far forward could he see? If he told me what I was destined to become, I could either begin taking steps toward it or actions away from it if I didn't like the outcome. Could I change my fate, though? I hoped I wouldn't want to. The ultraviolet light arrived on Saturday, but the infrared light wouldn't arrive until Monday afternoon, which meant I wouldn't be able to bring it to work until Tuesday. I still brought the UV light to work Monday morning and plugged it in. When I opened the curtain, I saw those people out on the opposite roof again. I thought they must not have completed their work on Friday. Due to some light cloud cover, the sunlight wasn't as strong as I'd hoped that morning. I could still see the disembodied legs standing in the corner, though. "Good morning," I said. "I brought something today. We're going to do a little experiment. Since you seem to like sunlight so much, I thought I'd try to bring in more. Artificial, unfortunately, but maybe it'll have the same effect." I turned on the first LED and adjusted the color temperature until it appeared to match that of the incoming sunlight. I did the same with the second, noting how on the overcast day, the adjusted LEDs actually brought slightly more definition to the legs. Why I had not played around with the color adjustments on the lights prior to that day bewilders me. I guess I just didn't want to risk losing any time with the ghost while he was there. And anyway, the LEDs seemed to supplement the sunlight, but were far from replacing it. Even so, by the time I adjusted the third light, and maybe this was only a trick my eyes played on me, I thought I saw the faintest silhouette of a man's upper body above the legs. Dust particles shimmered as they floated through it. Whether I saw or imagined the silhouette, It gave me hope and stoked my excitement. I rushed to turn on the UV light. It didn't have many settings. I just set everything to as powerful as it would go, pointed it at the legs, and turned it on. It felt like seeing the legs for the first time all over again. The terror, the uneasiness, the instinct to scream and run. These feelings all came over me again as the silhouette became a transparent purple hologram of a tall man standing calm and still, staring straight ahead at a point on the wall. Parts of him cast shadows on his face, and these parts, such as his chin, his nose, his forehead, gave his face the faintest definition. "There you are," I said in hushed reverence. "Now can you hear me? Can you talk to me?" The figure remained stoically still, his face pointed straight ahead. I imagined him like a person frozen in ice. I had begun to thaw him, but I needed more light to free him completely. As the terrified feelings melted away from me, I approached the ghost, careful not to step directly between him and the UV light. I could not see his eyes, but I felt them upon me, and I waved. The ghost did not respond. "I'm sure you can hear me," I said, mostly trying to reassure myself. "Tomorrow I'll bring the infrared. That should complete the spectrum, and my hope is that it'll give you all the energy you need to materialize. I want to talk to you. Are you able to see into the future? I need to know where I'm supposed to go in life, what I'm supposed to do. I need to know what you've seen, what you've been through. I need to know what's on the other side. You're the only way I'll ever get to know. Please, just work with me. Tomorrow, when I bring in the light, can you try to come through? I'm doing my best. I don't know why you're here, but fate must have put you here for a reason." My speech trickled off because the longer I stared into the transparent face of my friend, the more the shaded features looked familiar. I stood closer. The ghost and I were exactly the same height. The bottom of his shaded brow rested right above my eyes, and our noses could have touched. Our frames were identical. Impossible. I ran back to the UV light, desperate to beat the rising sun. I picked up the light and started moving it around to cast the purple shadows of the ghost's features in different angles of light. I tried to extrapolate his face from what I could see. Mostly, I was searching for anything that would prove me wrong, that would show me the ghost I'd been speaking to for the past 2 weeks was not me. How could it be? I'm alive, I'm healthy. How could this figure be my own ghost? I recalled the way he had known what I was going to say before I said it. He hadn't traveled into the future to know. He had known because he'd once said it himself. He'd traveled backwards, not forwards. I'd returned to this lonely place from the future to tell myself something. Surely I must have had some critical information to give myself, or else why would I have come here to this place where I had the privacy and equipment to bring myself out of invisibility? It all made sense. I knew exactly where to stand, how to influence myself into discovering the way to illuminate my ghost. My excitement grew. I'd thought the ghost might be able to peek into the future to tell me what I might do, but if the ghost was me, it could tell me exactly where my life would lead. Maybe it had returned to give me a warning, to help me avoid going down a certain destructive path. As the sunlight faded that day, taking my ghost with it, I said, "I'll see you tomorrow with the infrared. It's going to work. I can feel it. You'll be able to tell me whatever it is you're here to tell me, I promise." And the ghost was gone. The infrared light waited in my package delivery box when I arrived home. I tested it in my apartment to learn how it worked. I wanted to save as much time as possible for speaking with my ghost. I woke up at 4, unable to go back to sleep. If not for needing the right amount of sunlight, I would have gone to my office building at 5 or 6 o'clock. I watched a show without taking any of it in until 7, then hurried out the door with the infrared lamp under my arm. It was a perfectly clear morning. The sun had just begun to rise. It would still be behind all of the tall buildings when I arrived, but I knew once it rose above the building across the street, It would shine brightly into the studio. Perfect. I parked crookedly and rushed up all 4 flights of stairs so quickly I had to catch my breath at the top. I didn't stop, though. To give myself enough light to set up the infrared lamp, I turned on one of the LEDs. It hadn't saved my color setting from the previous day, but I could adjust it later. I plugged in the lamp, pointed it to where the ghost would appear, and turned it on. I then went to the UV light and turned it on. Nothing appeared yet, confirming to me that the ghost needed something from the sunlight in order to appear, that my lights could only supplement it. I finally went to the window to let the sunlight in. Maybe I wouldn't even need the LEDs, I thought. Maybe this would be the big reveal. In preparation for this possibility, I took a few seconds to collect myself, catch my breath, and prepare to bring my ghost out of the air and into the studio. I yanked the curtain away, looking over my shoulder to see the ghost the second he appeared. Ambient sunlight trickled in, making the studio glow slightly, but its light was fainter than even the soft UV glow. No direct beams entered through the window, and no warmth. Not even the ghost's legs appeared. Confused, I turned to look out the window. My own advertisement glared back at me. Those men on the roof hadn't been fixing an air conditioner. They'd been erecting one of the gigantic electronic billboards recently approved by the city council. I'd never listened to Scott carefully enough to realize one such billboard was supposed to go up right across the street, directly in between the rising sun and the studio window. The awful glow from the billboard's light ruined the trace amounts of sunlight that did make it through the window. I screamed, "No, no, no!" I turned on all the LEDs, making rapid, crude adjustments to their color as I attempted to bring my ghost with all his knowledge, secrets, and, hopefully, wisdom forth. But nothing I could do inside the studio could recreate the power of the sun. The massive billboard prevented any chance of its magical light reaching us. I tried, but never saw my ghost again. I'll never know what it could have told me. If only I'd woken up to what was happening sooner. If only I'd paid attention. Maybe I could have done something to stop that billboard from going up. Or maybe I wouldn't have been able to stop it, but at least I wouldn't have participated in its creation and be left with this guilt. I feel now I must sit and accept the fate I've written for myself. I tried to warn me. Maybe when it's my turn to be the ghost, I will succeed. Oh, and Todd now rents out the studio I built to influencers and models to shoot their content. None of his tenants' budgets allow them to use it. I check every one of the content creators' posts to see if somehow, just maybe, they manage to capture the faintest outline of a pair of legs, or possibly even more. But that day has yet to, and may never, come.
You made it out. Congratulations. If you enjoyed the story, please rate, like, review, or subscribe. For ad-free episodes and behind-the-scenes episodes I call Into the Woods, become a patron with the link in the description. You can also support the show by buying merch. That link is also in the description below. To stay up to date, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Warning Woods. And when you feel ready, meet me here for another journey into the Warning Woods. Thank you for listening.